Hi, welcome to your lesson on multiplying radical expressions. Let's recap a couple laws that you may or may not be familiar with. First is the distributive law. It means when you multiply what is called a monomial, a single term item, by a binomial, a polynomial with two terms. To multiply that, you have to multiply the thing outside by the first thing inside, and then the element outside by the next thing inside as well, and you end up with this. If you're multiplying a binomial by a binomial, similar process. Notice that here we have two things and here we have two things. So after multiplying, you should have four new things. It's like multiplying a 2 by 2 thing. So 2 by 2 makes four outputs. So first this one times this one, then this one times that one. Now we go to second piece times this one, and then second piece times that one. So both of these pieces are multiplied by both of those. Example of distributive law. So a simple one using just algebraic expressions, 4x times this, you'll multiply 4x by that and 4x by that. On this side we have a similar setup, but we're using surds. So over here you'll do 4x times that, 4x times 3x, and we'll also do 4x times negative 8. The result is 12x squared, because 4x times 3x is 12x squared, and then 4x times negative 8 is negative 32x. On this side, same process, we do root 3 times root 5 and root 3 times root 7. Result is root 15 and root 21, because root 3 times root 5, you combine them into one root, 15, and root 3 times root 7, combine those into one root, 3 times 7, 21. Let's look at a binomial times a binomial situation. So in algebra, using algebraic expressions, we have this times this, so we're going to do x times that, x times this, and then 3 times this, 3 times this. So we have x times 5x, then x times negative 6, then 3 times 5x here, and then 3 times negative 6 here. Let's simplify all those. X times 5x is 5x squared, x times negative 6 is negative 6x, 3 times 5x is 15x, and 3 times negative 6 is negative 18. These two middle terms are like terms. They can be combined. We have a negative 6x and a positive 15x. Together, they make 9x. So here's our resulting expression. Let's try that with surds or radicals. So there's the rule again for binomial times binomial. This one, we're going to multiply this times this times this, and then this one times this, and this one times this one. And there's the result. This times this is root 22. This times that is negative root 14. This times this is root of 55 right here. And then this times this is negative root 35. All right, one last thing you should know, these are called conjugates. This is a conjugate pair. This is one binomial. This is another binomial. They are identical except for that sign in the middle. When you see that situation, they are called conjugates of one another. So looking at this, what are the conjugates? Here we have root 2 and root 5. The conjugate of that will be root 2 minus root 5. This one, the conjugate will have an opposite sign, so the conjugate will be 3 plus root 7. And over here, the conjugate will be this identical thing with a minus sign in the middle. There it is. Okay, so multiplying conjugates. Something interesting happens when you multiply conjugates. First of all, let's multiply this one times this one. So root 5 times root 5. It's going to be root 25. Then root 5 times this one is negative 3. And then root 5 and root 2 is 10. Then we're going to multiply this one by the first one. So 3 times this is 3. And then root 2 and root 5 is root 10. And then this one times the last one, we have 3 times negative 3 is negative 9. And then root 2 and root 2 makes root 4. Let's simplify that a little bit. Root of 25 is, first of all, let's take a look at that. When you multiply conjugates, you'll always end up with this situation. These two middle terms will be identical to each other, but one will be positive, one negative. They will cancel each other because these resulted from doing this times this, which was the negative one, and this times this, which was the positive one, but they're identical, just one's positive, one's negative. So those cancel, and we are left with just root 25 and then minus 9 root 4. Root of 25 is 5. Square root of 4 is 2. So we have 2 times 2 times 9 here, which is 18. 5 minus 18 is negative 13. All right, you are given a practice problem set. This presentation is mostly geared to helping you start that packet. First ones that you see there are number 1, and these are the 2 problems. Let's take a look. Here we're going to do this times this and this times this. So the result of that is 2 root 15, and then this times this is root of 35. This cannot be simplified any further. Let's look at this one. Root 3 times this, well, you have a 2 on the outside. A root 3 times a root 2 is going to be a root 6 with that 2 on the outside. And then you do root 3 times this, so you end up with negative 7, and then root 3 and root 5 makes 15 here. Next one, C. Root 11 times this. There's going to be a 3 on the outside. There's going to be a root 11 times a root 11. Then 11 is 121. Then a root 11 times this is going to be 4 on the outside, and then 11 times 2 under the root. So we have that. This one can simplify further because the square root of 121 is 11. Anytime you have a root times a root, you'll end up with that. So there's 3 times 11. 3 times 11 is 33. This remains the same. Over here, we're going to do this times this. So that's 3 times 6, 18. Root 10 times root 2, root 20. And then this times this term. So 3 times negative 8, negative 24. Root 10 times root 7, 70. This simplifies further. 20 can be simplified into 4 times 5. The square root of 4 is 2, so a 2 will jump out and multiply this 18. So we have 36 root 5. And over here, this remains the same. Next, find these binomials. This is number 2 now. We're going to do just a few from each question. So number 2, A, looks like this. Now it's binomial times binomial. We're going to do root 2 times root 7. And then that is root of 14. All right. Then we're going to do root 2 times root 6. So that one. That will make root 12 positive. Then we'll do root 3 times root 7, which is root of 21. And then we'll do root 3 times root 6, which is root of 18. These can be simplified further. For example, 12 is made up of 4 times 3. 18 is 9 times 2. So here, a root of 4, a 2 will come out. Over here, square root of 9 is 3, so a 3 will come out. So here is that 2 that came out here. Here is that 3 that came out there. Everything else remains the same. Let's look at B from number 2 as well. Let's do binomial times binomial again. So that times that, you'll have a 4 on the outside, and then a root 3 times root 32. It'll be 3 times 32. It's 96, root of 96. Next, you'll multiply this one times this one. So you'll have a 4 in front, and then a root 3 times root 20 is root 60. Next, you'll do this times this. So you'll have a negative on the outside. On the inside, we have 5 times 32, so root of 160. And the final multiplication is going to be that, 5 times this, root of 5 times that. So you have negative, and then 5 times 20 is root of 100. Let's simplify. 96 is 16 times 6. 60 is 4 times 15. 160 is 16 times 10. And 100, root of 100 is just 10. So that's negative 10 at the end. Over here, we can pull out a 4. Square root of 16 is 4, so 16 goes here now. Because 4 comes out, multiplies by that 4, we get 16. Over here, a 2 comes out, because square root of 4 is 2. 2 comes out, 2 times 4, 8 on the outside. Over here, 4 comes out, negative 4. And that's as far as we can go. Let's look at C. That times that, it's going to be 3 root 35. This one, this times this, it's going to be 3 root 77, because 7 times 11 is 77. Next, we're going to multiply this one by the first. This is going to be negative 2, and this is root 50. Then we'll multiply those. So negative 2 times this is negative 2, and 11 times 10 is 110. Let's simplify. None of these can simplify except for 50. 50 is 25 times 2. So these remain the same. This one, a 5 comes out. 5 times 2 is 10. There's a 10. Everything else has been simplified as much as possible. Number 3, let's look at this one. It says write down the conjugate of the following. Okay, this is a simple exercise. Just what is the conjugate? Well, the conjugate of that one is identical thing, but the sign is changed. And finally, number 4, it says find the product of the following with its conjugate. So we have this. It says find the product, which means multiplying. So what would be the product of this and its conjugate? So you write the thing it gives you, you write its conjugate, and you make the product. So it's asking you to multiply them. So 4 times 4 is going to be first. That's 16. Then 4 times root 5, 4 root 5. Then negative root 5 times 4 is negative 4 root 5, negative 4 root 5. And then negative root 5 times root 5 is negative root of 25. Does anything simplify? I think so. These two, again, remember they cancel when we have an an expression times its conjugate, it's going to cancel. So those two middle ones are gone. We're left with 16 minus root of 25. Root of 25 is 5, so 16 minus 5 is 11. When you multiply conjugates, you're always going to end up with a number. There's going to be no roots. All these roots cancel. This becomes something that is a perfect square, and you're just left with a number. It's always true for conjugates. Let's look at the next one then. So we have root 3 plus root 6. Its conjugate is this. So let's multiply. Root 3 times root 3 is root of 9. Then root 3, oh, those arrows aren't long enough, sorry about that. Root 3 times this one is negative root of 18. Then it's going to be this one times this one, which will be positive root of 18. So those are the ones that are going to cancel. And then root 6 times negative root 6 is negative root of 36. All right, the middle ones cancel. You're left with root of 9 minus root of 36. Root of 9 is 3. Root of 36 is 6. So you end up with 3 minus 6, and that's negative 3. So again, we're left with a number. All the roots are gone. The middle one's canceled. This one becomes a perfect square, and everything's gone. That will always happen with conjugates. Well, there you go. I hope that gives you a good start on the homework. Now it should be much easier to continue on and do a lot more. Practice hard. This is a good thing to practice, something you'll need to be able to be pretty proficient at as we move on. You can do it. Good job.